Hello everybody, I'm Lisa.
And I'm Nick.
And welcome to It Takes Two, a podcast where two people take two movies with the same plot or premise and we watch and discuss them.
And in this week's episode we watched Dune 2021 and most of OG Dune, but not all of it.
Yes, so IMDb, so I've never seen any of Dune, any version of Dune. I don't know anything about Dune. Whereas Nick is a Dune expert. And IMDb told me that the plot of Dune Part 1, the 2021 film, is covered in the first 98 minutes of Dune 1984. So we put a timer on when we started it, but then we actually finished it 8 minutes short of that. So we watched 90 minutes.
Yeah, we watched 90 minutes of the original Dune movie.
Yeah. So we watched Dune and 90 minutes of Dune.
Yeah. So when referring to 2021 Dune, I'm just going to say Dune. And when I say OG Dune, I'm talking about the first Dune movie.
Would have thought OG Dune was the book series.
Well, yeah. Don't let me complicate things.
We'll just call them Tim Dune and Kyle Dune, right? Tim and Kyle?
Yeah, there's a lot I have to say, but I'll let you, the Dune novice.
The Dune novice? I don't know where to start, because I have taken a lot of notes for both films, and I probably will not get through half of either of them. I will give the world, we'll say again, spoilers.
Yeah, massive spoilers.
I will give you the one-sentence review that I gave you in person already about the Dune 2021 film, which is, it is the longest trailer I have ever sat through.
It did feel a little bit that way. I have said for a long time that a singular, even a trilogy, even two movies, which I think it was supposed to be in the drawing notes, the 2021 one was supposed to be a trilogy, and then the network shut it down, so it ended up becoming a twin movie. You can't do books justice unless they're either TV shows or miniseries, and I think, like my favourite book of all time, World War Z by Max Brooks, it should have been a miniseries, not a movie, and I feel the same way now about the 2021 Dune as I did about World War Z, which is it should have been a high-budget miniseries. And reality is, these days, a miniseries like Game of Thrones, well, that's a maxi series, is profitable. It's not a waste of money. It's not a waste of IP. It's not a waste of production value. And yes, I am aware of the Dune TV show, and I watched one episode of that, which I'd seen years and years ago when I was way younger. And the one thing I will say about the Dune TV show, it reeks of 90s sci-fi when the costumes would have cost more than the paychecks for the extras.
Right.
That's all I have to say about the TV show.
But you must feel similarly about the 1984 Dune in terms of adaptation and not taking long enough to do it, because I felt like I was in the cinema for 5 hours, so if the 5 hour Dune Part 1, the 2.5 hour Dune Part 1, was it 3 hours? I think it was like 3 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know the runtime. It felt like a very long time. If the 2.5 to 3 hours of Dune Part 1 is encapsulated in 90 minutes of the 1984 Dune, surely that pisses you off as well.
No, because the 2021 version, which I still have problems with, is far closer to the book than what we just watched.
Yeah, no, but I mean, when you watched the 1984 one originally, you must have thought, there's no way they can make this film, make all these, like, multiple books or whatever into 1 hour and a half, well, no, however long it is, 2 hour movie.
Well, if you notice between OG Dune and 2021 Dune, Dune, there's a lot of stuff within what we just watched that's been cut out.
Yeah, there's a lot of exposition as well in the 1984 Dune. They kept telling me everything.
Can I also point out one thing for that?
Yeah.
That is in the book. A lot of that is in the book.
No, I 100% believe it's in the book, but I feel like Denis Villeneuve really tried, and I can't remember who actually wrote the screenplays for the 2021 Dune, but I feel like they really, really tried to show us as much of it as possible.
Yeah.
Whereas the 1984 Dune is like, oh, well, it's written down already, I'll monologue it.
Yeah.
Let's do an internal monologue for every character. Like, there was points where I was like, is someone reading their mind, or can we just hear everyone's thoughts for no reason?
Okay, so that is one of the downsides for me as a book fan of the 2021 version is, yes, to do a good movie, you have to show, not tell.
Yeah.
That's why The Mandalorian is a fantastic TV show, because it's showing, not telling.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is within the book, those monologues that you keep hearing of people's little snippets of what's happening is in the book. And to me, that is more closely to the book than it is to and the OG movie than it is to the 2021 one.
Yeah, but you can do that without doing the way they did it in 1984, because that's the example you brought up was Game of Thrones. The Game of Thrones books alternate between different people. The Game of Thrones books, the Song of Ice and Fire books, alternate between different people's perspectives and their thoughts and their whatever. And the Game of Thrones TV show does the same thing. Now, I won't get into where the TV show ends up because I gave up on it halfway through, but it does separate out the individual characters and what they're going through and how they experience things, without giving them all inner monologues.
Yeah.
Whereas it just really annoyed me, because it's like sometimes they're in a room with a person who might be able to read their mind, and I'm like, oh, is Paul just reading that person's mind? And then it'll be someone just walking somewhere by themselves thinking something, and I'm like, oh no, this one I'm just hearing someone's thoughts. So it makes it more confusing, because I don't know when someone else can actually hear this, or when it's just in their head, or it's just random snippets, someone will just think one sentence and then continue having a conversation with someone, and it's very jarring.
It may appear that way, but when you read the book, you'll understand why. There's so much lore and so much backstory and so much expanded universe.
I tried to read some of the IMDb trivia for 1984 Dune, and there was too much about it, and I gave up because I got bored reading it. But one of the things that it said was, during the original release, cinemas handed out cheat sheets explaining the setting and the lore and the obscure vocabulary. So the film is so not good at explaining it that they had to hand out sheets telling people more about the lore so they'd understand what the hell was going on in the movie.
Yeah.
That's not a sign of a good movie. David Lynch, hang on, what did David Lynch say about it?
Look, I will see, while you look at what
David Lynch said, he considers this movie to be the only failure of his career. He refuses to talk about the production. He refuses to participate in any special edition DVDs. He says revisiting it will be too painful an experience to endure. He refuses to watch the Denis Villeneuve movie because he doesn't want to be reminded of his own failure.
Okay.
That's how he feels about that movie that he directed.
Okay. That's fine for his opinion. That's his opinion. I thoroughly love the OG Dune movie, is because for me, at a young age, that was my first introduction to the gothic, grimdark, hard sci-fi universe.
Right, okay.
I had watched Star Trek, and that to me is
it's a utopia.
It's a utopia, and literally people have made articles about it, about why and how the Star Trek universe works within the premise of the show, and why I could say something that 1,000 people have already said before, so I'm just going to skip it. Dune, OG movie, is the first example for me, when I was a kid, of high-level gothic, grimdark science fiction.
Okay.
where there is so much lore and so much interesting stuff that's hiding in the background that it's very hard to translate from paper to screen. And for me, the reason I love the OG movie is because it opened my eyes and changed my... It's like Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind is the same thing, because before I saw that movie, every cartoon, well, in my mind cartoon, but animated movie at the time was Disney. Right. Like, I'd only seen Disney where everything's, it's not, they're not going to have like a actual conversation, they're just going to have a song and dance about it, where the princess swings around and then the birds appear. And
I thought you were going to say that everything is really nice in Disney movies. There's so much dark stuff that happens in Disney
but
movies.
then if you look at the original, like, Tales by Grimm,
they definitely watered down by watered down the Grimm fairy tales a lot, but they still kept a lot of, not great stuff in it.
Okay, let's talk about the major differences before we get in. No, let's talk about the similarities between the two movies first, shall we? Because I think it'll be easier for you, and then we can go into the negative after, all the differences after, and then I will go on a giant random tangent rant. Okay.
What similarities do you want to talk about?
Well, you're the freshy. You got the fresh eyes. You tell me. You tell me. Can I just point out one thing?
What?
Dune 2021 is that ongoing meme of how society wants men to dress and how men want to dress, because the costumes in Dune 2021 are freaking amazing, and the costume design needs to win an award because I love it. Go. Tell me your thoughts, young Padawan.
I don't know. I mean, the Dune 1984 opens with a character that I didn't know existed from watching Dune 2021.
Oh, and yeah, she's super important to the story.
She does not exist so far in the more recent Dunes. That's the Emperor's daughter. I didn't know the Emperor had a daughter.
Correct.
I liked that the Emperor, right at the beginning, has like his villain speech where he just gives away his whole plan immediately. He's just like, and the creature. Okay, I have a lot of questions about it, because you know the lore, so explain this to me.
Okay.
The weird creature thing.
The navigator.
The navigator, is that what it is? Yeah. I'm going to try and find every note that I wrote about it.
So they were humans, and because of generations of exposure to the spice melange, they've basically mutated, and now they can fold space-time, which is their version of FTL, fast and light travel.
Okay, so the first thing I wrote about him was, well, actually, beforehand was before they opened the container that he's contained within.
Oh my god, the practical effects are so good.
Okay.
I love the little entourage he has.
Yeah, but that was the first thing I took a note about, was because the Emperor sends away his person, and then he's like, "We are alone," and I was like, "There's 50 people here. Yeah, you're not alone. There's like literally 50 people here." And then I wrote the face of Bo, big brain leaving for no reason. Yeah, because he reminded me of both of those. Yeah. And then I'm trying to figure out where he came back. So it was when they were traveling. And I think I called him a worm fetus. Yeah, worm fetus. I said, this is what I wrote. Is that worm fetus farting them across the galaxy? And then I said, is he farting and vomiting? He's shooting fire out of his hope and heart cavity thing. And then I just wrote the word what in all small letters. I just don't understand what he just like farted at them.
Okay, so I have seen some fan fiction.
You've seen some fan fiction about the worm creature.
I've seen some fan art that portrays the navigators much better than what you see on screen.
Yeah, I'm baffled by it.
Because they just look like, what's the easiest way to put it? I think in the book they're not as weirdly whale fetus as they are in the movie.
What the hell was that?
Yeah. I just love his little... Did you see the two dudes, like, vacuuming? That's my favourite, the two dudes vacuuming. It's great.
Yeah, it's a weird creature
so
thing.
I'll explain the hierarchy of the universe. It basically goes, at the top is the Spacer Guild. So they are above the law. Mm-hmm. They are basically a secret society that literally controls all interstellar travel in an interstellar like.
And that's what he's part of.
Yes, he's part of the.
Yeah, I got that impression from him that he felt
and then
like
you have the Landsrad, and then the top of it is the Emperor, and that is he's the current standing Emperor.
And as the 1984 Dune kind of explains to us, there were only 4 important planets in the whole universe.
It's sort of like there's a weird. So basically, the Spacer Guild and the Bene Gesserit, who are both above the law. Can I give spoilers to you that it helps explain things?
That's up to you, because you didn't want me to watch the end of Dune 1984 in case I spoiled it for myself.
Okay.
So
but things that have already been mentioned, like the Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah, the Messiah.
Yeah.
Jeebus.
So the Kwisatz Haderach is the Bene Gesserit mother, except the male version.
Yes.
So when you become a Bene Gesserit and you drink the water of life, it allows you to read know all the memories of your ancestors. So that's why they have this weird, bizarre breeding program going on. So they're trying to refine down the best genetic code all the way to basically creating a messiah.
Yeah, and Jessica decides to go off and be rebellious and thinks, I can create that, and goes against their wishes, because they want her to only produce daughters.
Yes, and the reason they wanted to produce daughters is because they wanted to marry Jessica's daughter offspring to Faye Harkonnen.
Yes, to join the
two houses together. So, because Jessica loves Duke Leto so much, she was just like, I'm going to go against the wishes of my order and produce him a son.
Yeah, so it's interesting because in the 1984 Dune, it's very much explained as the Duke wanted a son, so she wanted to give him a son. Whereas in the 2021 Dune, it was very much she thought that she could go out on her own and create the Messiah.
Yeah. It's and in the book it's very similar to OG Dune.
Okay.
So there's this sort of weird religion building where the Bene Gesserits had sent out missionaries, and one of the missionaries has ended up on Arrakis. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason that they have this Messiah myth within their religion.
Right.
And that's how that's how it's gone through with the Fremen have this Messiah coming.
Yeah.
And it's because the Bene Gesserits were there and sort of spread the seeds of their
prophecy.
Their prophecy, which is their little form of control, their little puppet strings.
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't know anything about this whole Chosen One thing when I watched it first. So when I was watching 2021, I was wondering, was it gonna because obviously 2021 starts with an explanation by Chani, is that her name?
Yeah.
And then it cuts to Paul, and you're following Paul the whole way through. So I was wondering, was it going to be like a Romeo and Juliet style thing? And then I was like, or is this like a Moses story that he's going to find his people and lead his people to whatever? And then when they started mentioning Messiah, I was just like, oh, another Jeebus story.
Yeah.
And then they were just like, they were talking about the prophecy, and they were like, a mother and a son. And I just went, do you mean the Madonna and child? You really seem to for someone who is not religious and not Christian, you really seem to like Jesus stories. This is the third time this is like the 12th episode of our podcast, and it's the third time we've talked about Jesus, I believe.
I find the Messiah stories play heavily on science fiction because for me, as a agnostic person who doesn't believe in organized religion but does believe in that whole quote that technology so advanced would appear like magic to us because we're so primitive.
Right.
The higher power ideal.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way that science fiction takes a story creationism or Messiah and then warps it in a way where it becomes science fantasy, and I really like it.
I definitely thought we were getting a Moses story earlier on in 2021 Dune, and then it became more of a Messiah, Jesus origin story.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of disappointed at. I feel like I would have liked it better if it turned out it was a Moses story. That, he was descended from the same people as the Fremen, and the Fremen were his people. Well, this could still happen, I suppose, but I don't think that's what's happening. And that he was going to lead them to, controlling their own destiny or whatever the case may be.
The thing that isn't explained in we've done this backwards, but it doesn't matter. The thing that isn't explained within either of the movies, maybe a little bit more, but they stayed away from a word and it pisses me off. But I'll get into that in a second. House Atreides are Spanish, like it's a Spanish influence.
Greek.
No, because the whole bullfighting and vendetta being mentioned.
Oh.
And
because the IMDb and stuff said they were Greek.
I always found them Spanish because the bullfighting.
Well, Atreides is a Greek name, isn't it?
I guess so.
And they speak Greek, they speak Greek and Latin, I think, in the movie, in the 2021 movie.
Maybe you're right. Maybe we'll have to agree to disagree. I don't know.
We could always look that up.
But the influence that the Fremen have, being from a completely desert area, is they're
Middle Eastern,
based on Middle Eastern people, and the word that they use in the book and in the OG movie is jihad.
Oh, okay.
And they took it out of 2021, and I was like, oh no, because they've literally gone, people won't understand what this means, and they'll just associate it with this, so therefore we're not going to,
Right.
And it's another one of those pandering to current audiences rather than the fact that literally that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
The exact same thing.
Yeah, that's fair
For
enough.
the people at home who don't know and don't remember the last 20 years of our existence of this lovely 20s, it means religious war, so war based on religion.
Yeah.
And that is a major part of Fremen culture.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted the quick and dirty version of like the history of Dune, that word comes up once and it doesn't end well for everyone else.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
I love the original Dune for the practical effects. They are dated, and I love scale models and I love miniatures. And the problem with 2021 is, do not get me wrong, the CGI in 2021 is the highest budget, like best quality, like right up there with everything else you've seen in the last year. Quality CGI. The problem is it's still CGI and nothing's done practically, and it all comes off, to me, there's no consequence to it because it's not a real thing exploding.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of 3D shapes getting set on fire.
Yeah. Budget is right, because it's a $165 million budget.
Yeah, for part one of a movie.
For part one of the movie.
Yeah. Part one of a story.
But then again, this movie has only been out for like a handful of weeks as well. What, 6 weeks or something? 7, 8 weeks? It's only been out for 2 weeks here.
Yeah, as we're recording.
I think 8 weeks total worldwide, and it's made $393 million back already. So,
yeah.
So they're definitely, I guess they had the budget to spend because they're getting it back.
But like I said, I think there's for me, growing up with, sci-fi when it wasn't like mainstream and wasn't a 300 million at the box office sort of thing. Well, that's so far. For me, it's always been practical effects, like why Jurassic Park OG stands up, and even World looks shitty now. Yeah.
And we have this. We've mentioned it multiple times in the podcast before. The Lord of the Rings trilogy versus the Hobbit trilogy.
Yeah. CGI, because it's not real, because it ages very quickly. It just has, for me anyway, watching science fiction, it doesn't have that intimacy, it doesn't have that grip, it doesn't have that, like the new Star Wars movies versus the old Star Wars movies where they were actual ships.
Yeah,
and they
but
were,
it's I felt when we watched, because I know I took a note about it, watching the 2021 Dune, that whole set of the town they live in on Arrakis looks like a miniature.
Yeah, that looked like a miniature.
I literally watched it and went, that looks like it must have been a miniature that was shot there, because it feels real.
Yeah.
But there's no way they built a whole town, you know. So they did use practical effects, as far as I can tell, in the 2021 Dune.
Yeah. From what we can tell, without, there's no behind the scenes yet because the Blu-ray, DVD, 4K hasn't been released. Still in theaters. Please see it. Oh wait, you can't because this is coming out later.
Knowing Dune, it's probably still in theaters in most places, because this is coming out. This is the first time we've ever recorded an episode within the 2 weeks prior to it being released.
True.
Because we normally try to record a bit in advance.
Way in advance. It'll be interesting to see going forward how this movie's received by non-fans.
Right, I haven't looked at anything about how it's been received by anyone, because I wanted to avoid other people's opinions and avoid spoilers, etc., etc.
Because it's interesting for me, because on a random tangent here, which is part of my thing, we both saw Tenet together on a date, and that was fantastic, and I bought it on 4K, and I haven't watched it again. And I think that's mainly because it was so good in the cinema, and it was so punchy that it's not one of those movies where I could just literally pick it up and watch it in an afternoon when you're, say, at work and I'm home. It's not like hey, let's watch a movie together. What do you want to watch? Oh, we could watch, one of the 90 things that's been released on Netflix or Disney Plus or whatever. It's not the movie I'm like, oh, let's just grab Tenet and watch it, because it is so heavy. Yeah,
it is a good movie, though.
And that's what but we haven't watched it again. It's literally on the shelf out there.
Did you buy, I feel like you bought Into the Spider-Verse at the same time as you bought Tenet?
And
I've watched that,
without me.
I know. I was showing it to someone who had literally never seen a superhero movie before.
Well,
who listens to every episode of our podcast, I think, so.
Yeah.
Shout
out to you. You know who you are. You know who you are.
But I feel like Into the Spider-Verse is a good movie to show someone who's never seen a superhero movie, because it's fantastic, and you don't necessarily need extra context.
No.
Helps, but
not really. Okay, back to what we were talking about. I think for me, I think the little jihad dodge, and
well, they might still bring it up in the second part.
Maybe.
Because I know they definitely still tried to have, bring in that Middle Eastern influence into it. They wanted it to be, they wanted to recognize that in what they've created.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't shock me if they do. Because they've brought in, obviously, like I said, I think they were speaking Greek and Latin.
Yeah. That's the other thing that I thoroughly loved about Dune, is not everyone just speaks English. Which is fantastic, because it's done.
It's also interesting because it's obviously set in our universe, but what is that, 10,191, so 8,000 years from now. Which makes sense. But I didn't realize that. My first indication that it was set in our universe is the fact that there's a character named Duncan Idaho. And I was like, why the hell would the word Idaho exist in a sci-fi universe? So then I was like, is this our universe? And then when I looked it up after, I was like, oh, it is our universe. It is supposed to be. And that's how I got onto the whole Greek and stuff, because there were the different houses have relationships to different Earth cultures.
The thing about Duncan is
he is so much more badass in 2021 version. I didn't give a shit about Duncan Idaho in the 1984 version. He just shows up and you're like immediately less impressed by him because I've seen the 2021 version. And I was like, who's this guy? And then he's there for like 10 seconds and then he dies later on and you're like, oh, he dies in one shot and that's it. whereas Duncan Idaho in the 2021 version is like Boromir. You know, he's getting up after being. He's killed multiple times and he's getting up and fighting more.
So in 2021, in the book, is where Duncan Idaho dies.
Right.
So in the book in 2021, that's the right point.
Okay.
The OG movie, yes, there is a lot less importance put on Duncan.
Yeah.
Which completely screws up the rest of the story.
Yeah, because Duncan Idaho in the 2021 version, is what the person who builds their relationship with the Fremen.
Yeah.
Right? So he's like he's gone there in advance and he's met up with them and he's like learned their culture and
he's trying to find out like if there's more Fremen than the Landsraad think there is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he's really expressive and really like interested in it and thinking like this is great, these people are our allies, we're gonna get on great. You know, there's so much we can learn from each other and whatever. Whereas this Duncan Idaho was like, oh yeah, they might be allies. Yeah. Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah. Also, in the OG movie, he gets killed by a shot to the head, and he's wearing a personal shield.
Those shields, I'm so sorry.
They're ludicrous, I know.
The shields are ridiculous. They're so ridiculous. They're unbelievably ridiculous. And when they do that fight at the beginning, the practice one, I was like...
Patrick Stewart?
Yeah, with Patrick Stewart. So Patrick Stewart is fighting Kyle MacLachlan. I was going to say Timothée Chalamet. He's not. Because they're in two different movies. I knew that it was a shield. I mean, even if I hadn't seen the 2021 one, I would have known that was a shield. Whereas in the 2021 one, I was like, what is this? Yeah. What is happening? I took a weird note about it, but I can't remember what it was, so I'll try and find it as I'm talking. But, yeah, so the 1984 one, it was obvious it was a shield, but it looks ridiculous.
Yeah, they're wearing...
Looks utterly ridiculous.
They're wearing giant orange glowing...
Boxes. But they're clearly animated. They're not. It's not even like special effects. It's like someone has hand-drawn it in MS Paint, you know? And then... And as weird as it looks then, when they go to actually fight in a battle in it, it's like, what am I watching? It's like, did a child make this? Has someone just drawn over the film, you know?
They look terrible.
Yeah. How early on was the...
Like right in the beginning?
I thought it was right in the
Josh
beginning. I'm just sorry. I totally went... very, very stream of consciousness in my notes for this 2021 Dune. So literally, I'm just like, why is Zendaya the narrator? Big, dusty battle. One day they just left. Sad boy Chalamet. Spaihts. Oh yeah. My big problem... No, here's the thing. I'm going to say my big problem with the 2021 version, but it's not a problem with the movie. It's obviously... I assume it's a commentary that was being made by Frank Herbert. That's the author's name is Frank Herbert? Yeah. Is that right? I assume this is a commentary he was making in the books, but the characters totally irritated me because of it. And they are so privileged. They are like ridiculously privileged. The Atreides family, they're just a bunch of rich, privileged people who think who are like, and they show up and the Fremen are like, this is our place. And he's like, no, the Emperor gave it to me. I own you. And it's like, what? You're trying to be their ally. And you're just like, no. The Emperor gave this to me. Your home is mine now.
So there's one sequence in the 2021 one. 2021
Yeah, you said that correctly, but it sounds weird.
Yeah, that is missing from the OG movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the relationship building and the showing of Duke Leto being a good father to Paul.
Right,
and there's a tiny, tiny snippet of that in the OG movie.
Yeah.
But one of the most important scenes that shows what the Atreides are like and what Duke Leto is like is removed from both those movies. And me and Floyd talked about this the other when I mentioned I'd seen the movie and we had a chat about it, and you were like la 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 because we were talking spoilers the entire time.
Yeah. Because
he's also read the book because I suggested it to him and he absolutely loved it and he kept sending me text messages every day.
Yes.
Shout out if you're watching, brother.
He's always listening.
Yeah.
He'll be in his car driving to work or something. Yeah. Having to listen.
Or he'll
be live blogging it to us in a chat.
That'll be fantastic. There's a sequence which is missing from both the movies, but it's in the book, and it is a sequence where after they arrive at Arrakis, they sit down for dinner. And it's a dinner, and it's a formal meeting between him and the Emperor's ambassador, which is Kynes.
Right.
And within that, they have, when they enter the room, there's a giant bowl of water. And everyone washes their hands in the water, and they're not being careful. It's like standing still water, like a punch bowl full of water, and the water's splashing over the side, and they're wiping their hands on clean linen and just dropping it on the floor, and there's like a puddle.
Right.
And on a planet where it never rains and water is like the most important resource.
Yes.
And he goes up to the person who's collecting the water off the floor and says, "What are you doing with that?" And they literally explain to him that they're going to the front gate of the palace to sell it to people. So this is water that people have washed their hands in, and it's been on the floor. And Duke Leto loses his shit.
Yeah.
And he's like, "This is unacceptable. Take that water and give it to them for free.
Yeah.
You're not making money off our like dirty hand water.
Yeah.
Like, you scumbag." And that's when because in that, both movies, the introduction to Kynes, and I will talk about the gender swap, because fine, this day and age, cool. Any character can be a male or female. I'm perfectly happy. I've said that many times with growing up with female leads, Ripley, so on and so forth in science fiction, and science fiction is always been...
Ripley.
Yeah, sorry, Janeway. Who else can I mention?
It's okay.
Yeah, but anyway, they have this sit-down conversation where Kynes is just like, "Oh, he's another tyrant here to boss the Fremen around and use the planet and take the spice."
Yeah.
Because despite the fact that he's like the ambassador from the Empire to Arrakis, he is so involved with their like sort of underground guerrilla like fighting.
Yes. I think that's obvious in both movies.
The issue for me is that antiquated as it is, when the book was written, the genders in Fremen culture serve different purposes for their lifestyle.
Okay.
So switching the gender doesn't actually make the character make any sense.
Okay. Because
then Kynes wouldn't been like a forward observer for the Fremen and gathering information. And despite, because it throws a little bit of a did the production team not read the book? Did the production team not do their research thing? And it's got nothing to do with the fact that it was a female character. It's just the fact that it doesn't work within the narrative of the lore.
Fair enough.
And it just was sort of, that was the one irksome piece that I was like, why do that? Like, okay, you wanted more female characters. Like, there's another missing piece, and I'm sorry that I'm going on a tangent here.
It's okay, I expected the whole episode to be going on tangents.
So, both the movies, no. Only the OG one talks about the traitor. There's a traitor in the household.
Yes, I don't think you get warned about him in the
Okay, so
one.
Within the book, there is a huge explanation of the traitor. Like, this traitor thing is an ongoing sort of continuously ballooning thing. Where even when they get to where OG movie, where we finished it and 2021 ended, there is no answer to who the traitor was.
Okay.
It's only Paul and Jessica who know that Dr. Yui saved them.
Right.
But you don't actually know until they meet up with... Spoilers, I'm not going to tell you. But in the book, there's this traitor thing. Duncan leaves for Arrakis not knowing who the traitor is.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks it's Jessica.
Right, okay.
Everyone thinks the traitor is Jessica.
Right.
And when the Duke's killed and Paul and Jessica are found alive and Duncan Idaho reunites with them before the Sietch is attacked by the Harkonnen, it's the Sardaukar dressed as Harkonnen, and where Duncan Idaho dies in 2021.
Yep.
Literally the first thing Duncan tries to do is kill Jessica.
Oh, okay.
Because in his mind, she was the traitor, and it's just missed out. And it's like, Jessica for me in the OG movie is such a more flushed out character than the 2021 one.
She's such a mess in both of them. I don't understand, because she's supposed to be like strong and rebellious and whatever, but we just see her being a weepy mess in both movies.
Yeah. And
it really annoyed me.
Yeah. So that's, if I was in the production team and they were like, oh, we're going to recast this character, I'd have been like, no, how about let's focus on making Jessica the actual character from the book.
Yeah.
And
which is it's a real shame, because I know Rebecca Ferguson is a good actress. I've seen her be a good actress.
Yeah. The thing that really annoyed me in the 2021 one was the fear is a mind killer mantra is Paul's.
Yeah.
Not Jessica standing outside the door like muttering it and him hearing it telepathy.
Yeah.
The other thing they've missed out massively, which annoyed me in both movies, which I'd hoped they'd cover in the 2021 one, is the Mentats?
The what?
The Mentats, the dudes with the stained lips in the movie we just watched.
No.
So they're like you don't know, okay.
I don't know.
So, the guy with the tattoo on his lip and his eyes roll back in the back of his head in the 2021 one? I can't remember the character, Piter and, damn it, why can't I remember? The Mentat characters. So basically, I'll explain.
Okay, which planet are these people on?
Each house has one.
So these are the guys with the crazy eyebrows?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So crazy eyebrow guys are Mentats. Now, Mentat is a order of human, but the issue is that, okay, so within explaining a little bit of lore here, their AI rose up, and AI was destroyed, and no one's allowed thinking computers anymore.
Okay, makes sense.
Because there was basically a genocide, and it went back the other way, and it was like the humans won in the robot war in Matrix. So thinking computers have been banned. So that's why they have to use the Spaihts, the navigators to transport Spaihts through interstellar travel, because they don't have AI that can pilot it themselves. That's why each house has a Mentat, is because you need basically a walking around super calculator in your pocket.
Okay.
Really random tangent here. Sorry, I've gone off on a rant.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is that in the book, Paul's going through the Mentat for beginners training.
Okay.
So he is already at a level that's above me, you, and the average Joe Blow who isn't
Right, so he's not an idiot like he is in the 2021 movie.
Yes.
Where he's just a moron the whole way through, and he's learning. This pissed me off so much. He spends so much time on his home planet learning about the Fremen and about Arrakis, and he learns about, we learn that, the worms are attracted to repetitive sounds and rhythms, and that the Fremen get across the desert by doing this special walk.
Yeah.
And then he hears it again somewhere else, and then when he's out in the sand, he doesn't do it. He doesn't tell Jessica about it. The whole time I was like, why are you not doing your special sand dance?
They do it in the 2021 one.
Not for ages. They spent ages walking around, and then they're and then later on he's like, oh yeah, there's this walk I learned about, and they do it for about 10 seconds, and then they start running, which makes it worse. In the 1984 one, as soon as they are about to step on sand for the first time, he's like, Mother, we must walk like this, the way the Fremen do. Walk without rhythm,
or you will attract the worm.
Yeah, and it's
like, so I literally... You'll never learn.
What?
It's lyrics from a song.
Oh, okay. Because I literally wrote in all caps when I saw him do it in the 1984 one. I got very excited that he was doing it. I was just like, oh, Jesus, where is this? Way down. He tells her about the sand walk. And then I just said, this Paul is much more prepared.
Yeah.
Because he literally seems to know what he's doing. And because he also has the thing, the thumper or whatever. Yeah, he has a thump. He's got one of those with him to divert the worm. He's like, we'll do this to divert the worm, and then we'll do the special walk.
You also remember that they cut out that entire section from when they dropped off in the ornithopter to... Oh, the 2021 design of those were fantastic. The four-bladed helicopters.
Yeah, I wrote a note about it at one point because I was like, they look really cool, but I don't understand the practicality of it.
Well, basically, you couldn't have a rotating blade on Dune. It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So they're basically helicopters. Instead, they don't use a perpetual circular motion to push this air down. They're using it to push it down and backwards, but that's why they use four blades.
Okay, well that's good. There's a practical use for it.
They're really well described in the book, and it's more closely. Obviously, they were just doing weird practical effects.
I don't know what they were doing in the 1984 one.
So that whole section where they get kidnapped, drugged, kidnapped, and get stuck in the back, and then Paul uses a voice to get them to remove Jessica's gag, and then they crash, and then they spend the night in the still tent.
Yes.
Then they end up meeting up with the Duncan's party.
Right.
That's when they get still suits. That's when the Harkonnen attack. That's where Duncan gets killed. That's when they escape.
Okay, so they're not supposed to have the still suits?
No.
Oh, okay. In both movies, the still suits were left on the...
No, they left them a still tent.
I thought he left them a still suit.
No, they only get still suits after they arrive at where Duncan's been hiding out.
I sworn they had a still suit in the other one.
So that whole section, meeting up with Kynes and that whole and Duncan getting killed, the bloke saving them, is cut out.
Of the 1984
because it's just and the whole storm chase sequence, which is in the book, from the Harkonnen kidnapping them and them crashing in the desert to them again crashing in the desert, is all just cut out.
Yes.
So yeah, it's kind of that like childhood dealing with trauma in their own way and own pace sort of thing, where it's instantly in the OG movie, where in the 2021 it's more closely to the book, and Paul's sort of just all struck out. He's not really keeping up with what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not until he meets Chani that everything sort of goes and matches into place.
In the book,
yes,
does he get out of the ship to go to the spice harvester?
No.
Oh, okay.
That whole sequence in my mind was a waste of time and super
Yeah, because he just gets out and then just doesn't help anyone and starts daydreaming about kissing Zendaya.
Yeah.
And then almost dies.
Yeah.
Whereas in the 1984 film, he stays in the ship and then just sniffs his fingers and it's like, spice!
Yeah.
And then has like a flash and that's it.
Yeah.
So going right back to the beginning of this episode, the reason I feel like the 2021 version is just a really long trailer is A, not a lot happens in it, and B, most of what happens in it is Paul having visions of the future of what's going to happen in the next one.
Yeah.
So literally, I think I had a note at one point where I was like, am I going to have to watch all of this happen again? Do I have to watch all of this happen twice? And then towards the end, right at the end, because I kept putting in notes being like, where is Zendaya? When is she showing up?
Yeah.
And then when she finally arrived, I was like, Zendaya! And then I just said, immediately after I said, we're like 4 hours in already. And then I was like, why couldn't Zendaya be the chosen one? I also wrote, the Christ analogy falls apart when it's a spoiled rich kid, which I still agree with. And then I immediately wrote, I hate Paul. But yeah, so it's right near the end then. So Zendaya only appears in it right near the end of the first film.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she appears in it in his like mind or whatever, but they only actually meet right near the end. Yeah. And she says, this is only the beginning, at which point I wrote, oh no, how much more is left? And then the film immediately ended. So I was very grateful that it wasn't only the beginning, it was the end. And there's no more movies, that's the end of the whole series.
No.
Oh, dang.
You're going to have to watch, the next part when it comes out,
Yeah.
And then also the end of the movie we just started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay. I know. I'm aware, but it'll be like a year away, or maybe 2 years away, so it's fine.
Yeah. So
a lot of my notes here are just like, Paul is an idiot boy.
Yeah,
death to Paul, he's so horrible. This guy is so full of himself. If I was her, I would kill him.
The whole point is Paul is supposed to be an idiot.
I don't like him. But I don't... Here's my problem, right? Here's my problem. The whole Atreides family are incredibly entitled. They're incredibly entitled, rich people who've gotten everything their whole lives. And I know from watching what I've seen so far that Paul is going to be like this messiah figure, and he's already got a big head about it, and he doesn't even know what the prophecy is. He's just like, oh, I'm the messiah? Of course I am. I'm the chosen one. He's this idiot. He knows nothing. He's an asshole. He's an entitled rich kid, and he's going to just get... Everything's just going to work out for him. He's going to be the chosen one, because he believed the whole time that he was going to be the chosen one, because he's a fancy rich kid who just gets everything handed to him. And it's just going to continue, and it pisses me off. I know one of the notes that I wrote, because I saw it when I was scrolling through a minute ago, one of the notes I wrote just says, we're 5 minutes in and I hate the Empire already, or maybe I'm just Irish. So, it might explain.
Yeah, maybe that's your issue.
I'm just too Irish to watch these movies. Yeah. But that could be said for anyone who is indigenous to a country that has been ruled by an empire.
True.
Let's see what some people from India think of Dune. I imagine they might have similar opinions to me. Yeah, so Paul is like...
Thank you for something that the Empire will never say. Thank you for bankrupting your country so the Allies could win World War II. Because no one ever mentions it.
Are you addressing our Indian listeners?
Yes.
We have many. We have a lot of listens in India. So actually, thank you for listening to us.
Yeah. It's a shame that in all forms of media, the bankruptcy of India to save England against the Nazis was never ever mentioned.
Yeah.
Because every single World War II movie starts with the American invasion of Europe.
Well, you obviously haven't watched enough British World War II movies.
I've seen Dunkirk.
Yeah, no, I watched a lot. I studied post-war British cinema at one point, so I specifically was watching the movies that were made in the UK immediately following the war in the 40s. So yeah. I've seen a lot of them. Yeah, I don't know. So it just really annoys me how entitled they come across, and how he's literally this idiot. He's like learning all this stuff. You know, he's literally studying, and then when it comes to practically doing things, he forgets it all. But he thinks he's great. He just keeps getting a big head about it, and then it's all going to work out for him because he is Jesus. But he's not. Jesus was, like, not to be super Catholic person, because I'm not, but Jesus was, like, raised as a poor carpenter's son, and he was, like... He was not a spoiled rich kid, you know? And he was helping other people who were as poor as him. And, you know, whereas what's he going to do? He's going to have this, like, savior complex that he's arrived on this planet of indigenous peoples. And he's like, don't worry, I'll save you because I'm your god.
Your Catholicism is showing. You're not far off the mark. And I can't really have a justified argument against what you say without giving away massive spoilers.
Yeah, no, that's fair. No, I will. I mean, I'll watch the sequel and I'll watch the end of the movie we've just watched.
And you'll listen to the audiobook, the fully acted audiobook.
Will I?
Yeah.
Is that a requirement for the podcast?
It's a requirement for our relationship.
Oh, God. Okay.
No, it's really good.
Okay. But yeah, so I will listen to those with an open mind, and there's definitely parts where it feels like it's a commentary on that, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like he's not going to be the Messiah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you kind of have to sort of look at the era that Frank Herbert is from as well.
Was it when white people saved everyone from everything all the time? By being rich and killing people?
Yeah, but you have to understand that the whole hero story with Paul is he goes from the rich entitled kid, he goes to another land, in this case another planet,
Yeah.
and all of his power and his wealth is stripped away from him, and then he has to build up again. That's the point in both the movies where we've sort of stopped. So you're at the point where you're like, oh, he's just entitled and rich, and me in my mind, I've got the whole hero story.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like he's lost everything. I mean, I know his father is dead, but he's like...
And his entire house has been wiped out, and his best friend's been murdered.
Yeah, that's fine. No,
that's fine.
No, but what I'm saying is it doesn't...
Just in, folks. Your best friend being murdered is just fine in Lisa's book, as long as you're rich and white.
No, but
Go on, justify.
I'm not saying... No, he's experienced loss, obviously. And at this point, he doesn't even know to what extent he's experienced loss. But he hasn't lost his power. He's in a place where his powers, his, like, telepathy and the voice and all that are heightened.
He doesn't know what that means at this point in time.
Yeah, well, he's heard bits and pieces, so he's got this messiah complex already. And... where it ends in the 1984 one, they just like meet the Fremen, and the Fremen are like, some people, you'll come with us, and then Jessica subdues one, and they're like, teach us your ways, let's go, and that's it. Whereas in the 2021 version, she does subdue one of them, and then they're like, well, now she is, she's better to you, which means they would be our leaders, so we need to have an actual fight here.
Yeah.
So they have Paul fighting their champion.
Again, why the issue that I had with the recast of a male character to a female character is because within the Fremen culture, if it's very sort of like alpha male-esque, and if the leader of a... basically if the leader of a group is taken out by another leader, that group now joins that person and they follow the strongest.
Right.
So the fact that Jessica is able to just kick his ass instantly, they're all like, holy shit.
It's a woman and she did this,
Because in their culture that wouldn't have happened.
Yes. It's funny because that's the Jessica I would like to see more of, because the Jessica we see from most of the movies
and that to me it was
weepy mess.
At the 2021 one, they had the opportunity to do it, and it was just so cut down and so bullshit. And it's like, and even there, it's just she just grabs his throat and holds him against a concrete pillar, and they're all like, oh shit. Yeah, you're strong.
Where I was going with this is that Paul then fights their strongest warrior or whatever and kills him. Yeah, and it's like, sweet. I'm the king of the world, I'm Paul, I'm super powerful, I can beat all of your warriors, kind of thing. That's, like, he's still feeling great about himself. He thinks he's Jesus. He thinks he's Jesus.
Where have you got that from?
He thinks he's Jesus.
Okay, well I guess the fact that I actually understand the story from the book point of view, and I can't say any more because
I'm willing to be proven wrong by the sequel, but at the moment where we've left it, I still think that he is unbelievably entitled.
Do you think it's the character's portrayal? Do you think it's
I don't know.
The fact you don't like empires, maybe? Is it the fact you don't like...
It's just, I don't know, it's just really,
I love how
I felt like they didn't need to do the whole like white savior thing, like bring in this.
Okay, can I throw out one thing that wasn't an overly used trope when the book was written?
Right. Okay. Sure.
Maybe sure.
Sure, I believe you. There was no white saviors before.
Oh no, it wasn't overused.
Anyway.
Well, that's the end of the podcast forever. Me and Lisa have come to a wall we can't cross because
like I said, I'll remain open for the sequel. We'll watch the sequel together in a year or 2 years,
it's
whatever.
It's not a sequel. It's part 2.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
Part 2 is not a sequel.
So I was just scrolling through my notes and I was like, "What part is this?" And it's like, "Oh no!" I literally wrote, "Movie very long. I want to go home. I'm sad there was no popcorn. I need to pee."
I was so cold. The movie we went to see on the day we went to see on the movie, it was bucketing down.
Oh my god, yeah, it was like a massive downpour.
Yeah. I was still wet. My pants were still wet by the end of the movie.
Did you find the movie too loud? I don't know if this was a cinema problem or a movie problem, but there were certain parts of the movie that were way too loud.
Yeah, there was something weird about
physically hurting my ears. It was, and the mixing was off, so there was things like people were talking while there was noises that were going on too loud that I literally couldn't hear what they were saying.
Yeah, there was a little bit of mixing issues I found with the 2021 one, and it might have been just the cinema we were in.
Yeah, I'm genuinely not sure.
And it'd be very interesting to see when it comes out on DVD or Blu-ray. Blu-ray, how it comes out, because there was sequences where they're talking and the music was louder than them.
Yeah, the music was way louder.
And I was like, I know the story, but I'm still struggling to follow the dialogue.
Yeah, I literally couldn't understand the dialogue on parts, and it didn't help that Timothée Chalamet was very mumbly through a lot of the movie.
Yeah.
He's also totally emotionless, which is hilarious. Colin McLaughlin also was very, very emotionless for a lot of the 1984 movie, and I thought it was really funny because there's a point where he is being totally monotone and he's just talking like this, and then Jessica's like, calm down, Paul, and I was like, what did he do that wasn't calm? he kept talking in a monotone.
That was a dead air for a second there.
Yeah. Are we, does that mean we're finished? I don't remember what notes I took about the, because I copied some of the IMDb notes.
Let's keep going. Let's end on something positive here.
Yep.
What did you enjoy about the movies?
Did I enjoy them?
No, there must be something. There must be something you enjoyed.
I don't know. I wrote something was wonderful, but I can't remember what it was. But I feel like it wasn't like an important thing. I just remember thinking, oh, that's the only positive thing I've written.
I was sad they didn't have pugs in the 2021.
What did they have? Because that's literally what I've written is Patrick Stewart going to war holding a pug is wonderful.
Yeah.
So that's my favourite thing about both movies is the moment in 84 where Patrick Stewart like runs into battle carrying a pug under one arm. Yeah. It's very cute. I genuinely have no recollection of what they have instead of pugs in the 2021 version.
They didn't have...
They have something, because I have written at one point, all in caps, what the hell kind of pet is that?
Okay.
But I don't know what it was.
The heart plugs thing that they removed from the Harkonnen was interesting for the 2021 version.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if I like the design of the 2021 version of the Harkonnen. Also, the removal of Faye also really pissed me off.
Yeah, because there's none of that wanting to marry...
Because Faye doesn't exist in the 2021 movie, and it annoys me because without Faye... There's no point of them being able to marry a female Atreides to a male Harkonnen to stop the war. There's also a massive side plot within the book, which there's no spoilers for you, because it's not mentioned in either of the movies.
Yeah.
The Faye is trying to take the Baron's place. The Baron is trying to encourage Faye to take his place.
Right.
And in the book, Baron Vladimir Harkonnen is a huge pedophile, and Faye keeps using like boy traps to try and kill his uncle so he can become the new Baron.
Okay.
Never mentioned in either of the movies. I can see why.
Yes.
But the whole... I think there's more... The Vladimir Harkonnen in the OG movie being more of a child-hungry pedophile than there is in the 2021. He just comes off as gross.
Literally the first thing I wrote about him was just like, Stellan Skarsgård, yucky.
Yeah.
Stellan Skarsgård, yucky.
Because that whole sequence, can we go over that whole sequence? So in the reveal, he, which is in a weird place, because they're still on Getty Prime in the OG movie, where you get the Baron's reveal that he's like super gross and diseased and stuff, but they mixed it up and put it after he got attacked by the gas in the 2021 one. But that whole sequence where you see the reactions of even his inner circle, where a boy comes in to replace the flowers in the room of this really gross, polluted industrial, like, they're just constantly littering all the time.
Yeah, they're like, and the needlessly cruel drink thing that he has, where they literally squish a bug in the thing. They, like, squish a live creature and then drink it and then just toss the carton away.
The sequence where Vladimir Harkonnen flies over with his, like, gravity harness because he's too fat.
Yeah.
And murders a child in front of everybody.
Yeah, for no reason.
And you see everyone's reaction to him, like, all of his people are like, and, like, looking away.
Yeah.
And the only person who's watching is Faye. And Faye sees, like, there's a tiny hint, and I don't know if this was given the direction in the movie, or I'm just putting pieces together.
Yeah.
It's like Faye getting a hint of how he can kill his uncle.
Right, okay. Yeah, that would make sense.
But I don't know why they delete... I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen, and I can't tell you. And it's burning a hole in my brain.
It's okay. It's okay.
Not okay.
You don't have to. When in the 2021 version, when he floats up originally, like, he's wearing, like, a big long robe thing. Yeah. So when he did it first, I was like, is he floating or is he just really tall? Because I wasn't sure. And then it was like, oh, he's floating.
Yeah. So the harness is like biomechanoid, where it's like plugged into his body in the 2021 version.
Right.
But it's like on his outside in his weird, like, Fifth Element pajamas. And the 2021 one, it's like surgical implants in his bag.
I'm trying to think of one of the things I was thinking when we were watching the 1984 thing is that everything is less than the 2021.
Less? What do you mean?
Just everything is less. The Baron is less disgusting.
Yeah.
Paul is less stupid, I guess. Jessica seems less whiny. Like, everything is, it's like, it feels like the 2021 version is the 1984 version magnified. The city is bigger, everything is... Though one of the things one of the things I'll give the 1984 one that I thought was good was the spice harvester is covered in sand.
Yeah.
Whereas in the other one, it's like, it seems much cleaner. Because everything's obviously clean, CGI, everything's pretty, or whatever. Yeah. Whereas in the 1984 one, it's like... They're
miniatures.
Yeah, and it's like rough, covered in sand, rusty, and you're like, yeah, that's what it would look like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Everything is less so in the 1984. It's like muted versions of things. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. There was something in particular I was thinking of, but I've forgotten it now.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's been our Dune episode part 1.
Part 1. Yeah, we'll come back.
We'll come back when the next one comes out.
Yeah, part 2 will be when Dune part 2 comes out. So and then we'll watch the rest of the 1984 Dune. Yeah. Because this is a review of only the first 90 minutes of 1984 Dune.
About the entire 3 hours of 2021.
Yeah. It's like, it's crazy. I think I did have the lengths of them, because it was mentioned on IMDb. Yeah, it was...
Well,
it's 155 minutes. So it's just over 2.5 hours.
Which version?
Then I did 2021.
Okay.
But that's told in the first 90 minutes of the original.
Well, like I said, there's bits of it cut out, and there were sequences that are way extended that shouldn't have been, and things that are it's easier on page. It's like when we had that conversation about Annihilation.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Annihilation is impossible to adapt.
Yeah, and as long as you take the movie that came out on Netflix and the book and have them as two separate things, it's fine.
It's like loosely inspired by Annihilation.
But there is no physical way...
By the Southern Reach trilogy, I'll say, because of some of what happens in Annihilation, the movie is definitely inspired by the second book.
Yeah. There is no way you'd physically be able to put what happens in that first Southern Reach in a movie. There's a sequence that don't make sense and would not translate well on the screen.
There's no way you could do it. There's literally no way you could do it.
And what we got was like a weird dancing mimicky thing at the end of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is not remotely anything like what was in the
But anyway, we're off center here.
Yeah.
through your giant notes, have you found anything else you want to say?
Yeah, just on the subject of, because I mentioned earlier that when we were watching 2021 Dune, I was wondering about the practicality of things, whether things were just made to look cool or if they're actually practical. And I found in the IMDb notes of the 1984 version that the still suits.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart said it was the most uncomfortable costume he's ever worn, and Max von Sydow also said that. So I don't understand, if you were designing a suit for walking in the desert, why would you design it to be uncomfortable? It should be designed for comfort, as well as the wicking away or whatever it is where it gathers your sweat into recycled water.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense for it to be an uncomfortable suit because...
But this is the costumes was uncomfortable.
Yes. But the costumes should be designed for comfort if the actual thing was designed for comfort. You know what I mean?
I don't think the suit was designed for comfort. It's designed to keep you alive in the desert.
Yeah,
and
but
it's
it should be... You're not going to be kept alive very well in the desert if you literally can't walk because you're in pain.
Yeah, true. That did piss me off in both the movies. In the OG one, they don't have the caps, and in every single close-up of their faces in the 2021 one, the first thing they do is rip them off.
It's annoyed me so much. They got these nasal cannulas, right? Is that what you're talking about? The nasal cannula thing?
Yeah, and the caps.
Oh, right.
So when they're in the high desert, the only thing that's supposed to be visible is their eyes, because your eyes don't sweat, so you don't lose water out of it.
But Jessica kept ripping the nasal cannula out, and I was like, "What are you? How are you breathing right now?"
Yeah, it's one of those things that annoys me, and it's very similar to how they do night sequences in movies, because they always have open face guards where in reality that never would have happened, because you would just take a random piece of shrapnel to the face and that's the end of your king.
Right.
But in movies they always have open faces so you can see the characters and see the acting.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
But, in this day and age, and you're adapting a movie, use another way to do it. It doesn't have to be the standard way of filming actors. You've got all this ability, and you just don't do it in a way where you can show people acting with just their eyes and the tone of their voice and their physical body language.
Which good actors should be able to do.
You rely on people's faces being, because otherwise the audience is a dum-dum and won't know who the hell's talking. Yeah,
it's interesting, because that is a difference between stage acting and screen acting, is that when you're acting for stage, it's all about the body language, all about whatever. Whereas for screen acting, everything has to be much subtler because they're going to be focused in on your face or whatever. So, but most actors who are screen actors have done stage work.
Yeah. So
they should be able to still convey emotions with things covered up. The only other fun trivia fact I took down was that Sir Patrick Stewart was cast by mistake. David Lynch meant to hire a different person whose name also was Patrick Stewart, and they sent the thing to the wrong person.
Well, he did a bloody good job with Denis.
It's hilarious. I just thought that's so funny. They accidentally hired Sir Patrick Stewart.
I love an accident. How do you accidentally hire a fabulous actor?
I know, it's fantastic. But, I don't think anyone minds that they accidentally hired him.
I think next to Sting, he's probably the most famous person in that movie.
Well, Dean Stockwell is pretty famous. I mean, not nowadays. He's passed away. But, and Kyle MacLachlan, although it was Kyle MacLachlan's first feature film, so. I don't know. What's her name? Sean Young, who plays Chani.
In comparison to Sting?
She's not the same as Sting. Sir Patrick Stewart didn't know who Sting was.
He didn't know how to eat pizza until recently.
Yeah, he didn't know who Sting was when they were filming that, and he asked him, was he a solo artist, and he told them he was in a band called The Police, and he thought he was in a police band, which I think is hilarious.
He's weird. Lived a life. He's lived a weird and interesting life.
Before we finish up, just one more question about the books. What age is Jessica when she gives birth to Paul?
Don't think her age comes up.
Oh, okay. Because
Paul's
he's supposed to be 15.
Yeah.
But in both films, he
appears a lot older.
Yeah, well, but it's the age difference is what gets me. Because in the 2021 version, there's only 12 years between the actress who plays Jessica and the actor who plays Paul. And in the 1984 version, there's 14 years between them.
Yeah.
So is she supposed to be 12 or 13 when she gives birth to him? Or is that just a weird...
I think you're just reading
Okay.
into casting thing.
Okay. I just wanted to know.
My favourite one, you haven't seen, I don't think you have seen it. You didn't see the Star Trek?
I haven't seen any Star Trek, anything.
Okay, cool.
So you don't have to finish that sentence, the answer is no.
Winona Ryder plays Zachary Quinto's mother, and there's 2 years difference between them.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just casting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we found that with Back to the Future. Peggy Sue got married one where the ages are all over the place.
Yeah. So Jessica and Duke. I think Duke Leto was supposed to be like a silver fox, and I think Jessica being that his concubine, not his wife.
Yeah, she's young.
Is young.
But I was wondering, it wouldn't be totally out of the ordinary if it in older cultures for her to be 12 or 13 giving birth. So it's not shocking to me if that is what the case is supposed to be, but I don't know if that is it, or I assume she was meant to be younger than 20 when she had him.
Possibly.
I'd say she's supposed to be young giving birth, but maybe not that young.
There's so much interesting stuff that I'd love to tell you, but I just can't.
We'll get around to it next year or the year after, whenever the part 2 comes out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we better wrap up. This is a long episode, but I figured it would be because it's a very long movie with a lot of lore that you were an expert in.
I'm not an expert. I spent 10,000 hours studying Dune. I love the original book, and I find the sequels joyous in their own little way, and there's people out there who are not fans of the next books, but I just think that the expanding story of the Dune universe and the characters in said universe are very interesting.
Are you looking forward to the Dune Part 2?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. So you enjoyed them as adaptations? Both versions?
Yeah, because they are still, unlike World War Z, they are reasonably close to the source material, and both of them got things way more right than I expected them to.
Okay.
And it's just a fantastic little universe within itself. Until other than Frank Herbert died, but that's
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. We won't delay any longer. Thank you everyone for listening. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at ittakes2_pod, and on Facebook at ittakes2pod, and our website is ittakes2.co.nz.
I don't remember how you remember all of those. I don't understand.
I'm the one who puts them into the show notes and stuff.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, thank you for joining us. You stay safe out there.
All right, goodbye everyone.
Bye.